this special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Patrick Williams. He's a passionate and inspiring public speaker, consultant, writer, artist, independent scholar, and visionary educator. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
I'm glad to be here, AJ.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking on entrepreneurship and creativity. So, Patrick, I want to understand from you, you focus on creativity and entrepreneurship quite a lot. You talk about restoring creativity and all that stuff. So, why do you focus so much on creativity, especially with regards to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. Entrepreneurs are super close to artists. They're passionate, they're focused, they have an immense drive. And I noticed this quite a few years ago. And so I thought, wow, it would really help entrepreneurs to understand how closely they relate to artists and be able to use the creativity that artists tap into. So I started design workshops and mentorships to help entrepreneurs and other business folks also to connect with their innate creativity, the creativity that we all had when we were children, and to bring that into their work life and their life in general. It helps in relationships, it helps in how you relate to the world, and it helps with your business also.
Right. Let me understand for the audience through this. In today's time, a lot of entrepreneurship is, focused on scaling their company, building their company, focusing on profits, getting more money into their startup. When do you think will they have time for creativity? Is our creativity and entrepreneurship two different things, two sides of the river? Or is it, both are on the same side? I want to understand where they meet, where they do not meet.
They need it all the time. In order to innovate, and most entrepreneurs are focused on innovation, innovation comes from creativity. You don't get to an innovative idea or a innovative design or an innovative widget unless you have a creative spark, unless you have a sense of your creativity. And it is challenging, you're right, for entrepreneurs and business folks to consider this because it's intangible. You can't put your finger on creativity. It is something that you have to feel, and you have to harmonize with it. You can't push the river, so to speak. You see what I mean? You can't grab a hold of it. It's like trying to grab air. If you're trying to do it, you're going to fail. So you have to surround yourself by. You have to include a creative environment. You have to include a creative mindset, and you have to have some creative practices and exercises that can get you into the flow and the space and the awareness of being receptive to creativity.
Right. In today's time, with the artificial intelligence coming in, how do you think entrepreneurs should look at creativity? A lot of creativity entrepreneurs, a lot of people are, or people who have got some sense of business or in terms of marketing, they are looking at artificial intelligence creativity through chat gpt, through mid journey, so many other things are there. How do you think then artists can extract or get the attention of entrepreneurs towards the real art world? You have been an award winning artist, you have traveled through the globe, you know about this. And is it a easy time to be an artist? Is it a difficult time to be an artist? especially with communicating with entrepreneurs about their art?
Yeah, there's a few things to unpack there. Uh, it's an exciting time to be an artist, and also I guess I'll address the AI subject. So I do not rely on my pencil to give me ideas and to inspire me or to handle all of my creativity. My pencil is a tool, and artificial intelligence is simply a tool. It is unable to be creative. There's no possibility of an algorithm to be creative. The definition of an algorithm is a series of instructions that are followed without any variation to the instructions. So I give instructions to my pencil, so to speak, or my paintbrush, and then something happens. So we can give instructions to an AI that could help within their domain. They can't act outside of their domain. So creativity will never happen within an AI system, within an algorithm, because it's contradictory. It can only follow instructions. So uh, focusing on AI is for your creativity is a dead end. So entrepreneurs can find areas in which an algorithm can assist them, but never depend on it for creative inspiration or a creative act. That is totally for each individual to find within themselves. And all entrepreneurs have the capacity to be creative because they were creative when they were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. So relying on our own creativity is the key to innovation for entrepreneurs.
Right, right, Patrick. In terms of creativity, is creativity a part of your personality when you are born, or like you learned about all those things by knowing yourself and by developing that creativity or creative bent of mind? Today times are different. I cannot draw even one single thing, but with the tools available, I can do it on a computer or anywhere else. I want to understand, is that enough for me to be a creative person? What is creativity all about? Is creativity for everyone just because some tools are there? Or a creative person will always be in a very different league? It is like, specialization. An entrepreneur can be a creative person as well, but an entrepreneurial bent of mind is totally different when they are good look at a creative creation rather than an artist looking at it from a different angle, because they will look at the finesse of that is what brings the best out of people. I want to understand this whole domain of creativity, especially now that where a lot of people have a choice. It is like, every English speaking person cannot be a great author, but from an Indian perspective, anyone who can speak English does know a few things, but that is not always the case. For one, it is only a language. For others, it is part of their education and enhancement of their knowledge. How do you look at creativity from that perspective?
Again, those are great questions. I would say, wow, I'm there's so much there, AJ. I would say that, well, fundamentally, creativity is accessible to everyone, but I'm talking about creativity that is not necessarily related to artistic talent. So I believe that there's a larger realm of the creative that encompasses virtually everything. Uh, And underneath that umbrella of this big idea of creativity, there are other little domains. One could be painting, one could be music, but then there are other domains of relationships, and being in nature is a creative experience. Business is a creative experience. So within the whole possibility of creativity, there are many ways that we can access our inner creative abilities. I believe that everybody is creative because we are creative when we're children. All children naturally use their creativity, their imagination, and when they're playing. And because of that, I believe we can all access our creativity as we get older and then through our adult years. That doesn't mean that we're all going to write a symphony like Mozart or paint a ceiling like Michelangelo. What it does mean is that we each have the ability to increase and explore and find greater amounts of our own personal creative abilities. We can use the example of running a marathon. If I tried to run a marathon right now, it wouldn't go very well because I haven't been running. I would have to start to practice and train to run a marathon. And that would it might take a year, it might take 6 months. It depends on how much effort I put into it. So when people, as you said, you not, in your opinion, you're not very good at drawing. If you wanted to start drawing, then you could step by step learn what tools to use, how to use the tools, the pencils or the pens, whatever you're choosing to draw with. And then slowly but surely, you can increase your awareness and your ability to use different techniques, and you would become a better drawer. That doesn't mean that you're going to draw like the greatest of all artists, but it does mean that you're choosing to enter a realm that right now you don't know much about. You appreciate drawing, you appreciate the arts, but then stepping into it is a whole different world. But you can increase and business people understand this part, that it's all about scaling. All right. So if I'm teaching someone to paint, and then after a month they say, "Oh, I just called the Vatican to ask if they had a ceiling somewhere in the Vatican that I could paint." That's out of scale. You just started painting, and a month later, you're wanting to paint in essentially like Michelangelo. That scale is off. We all need to keep our scales in perspective, so to speak. So learning how to draw, you don't need to think about anything else other than learning how to draw. And with entrepreneurs and business folks, when I'm talking about creativity, that's what I focus on. Little steps will increase your ability to understand what your creativity is and what creativity in general is, and where to find it, how it comes to you, how you notice it, when you have a light bulb experience, when you understand something that is about to happen, and it applies to whatever you're working on within your business world. Say a team is designing a widget. I do this exercise with folks. I have the team go listen to jazz music as a team, and they're thinking about what they're trying to accomplish. If they're designing a widget, then when they go to listen to jazz, they take their journals, which I encourage people to journal, and they think about their widget as they're listening to the jazz. So when I go to a jazz concert or a jazz lounge, I'm thinking about naturally, I'm not trying to, but I naturally think about the paintings that I'm working on, or the drawings that I'm working on, or a painting idea that I'm working toward. It may just begin to, it's in the process of materializing in my imagination, and the jazz concert will help. When I go to a museum, it will help. When I take a walk in nature, it will help. So these are the things that get people ready to connect to their own personal level of creativity. And that level can increase. I've been painting for almost 50 years and drawing for 55, and I'm still finding new levels of technique and understanding. I've just started to paint portraits in the last 6 months, which was very, very challenging, but I'm experiencing leaps and bounds in my ability to paint a portrait.
Right. Right, Patrick. You say that innovation, like creativity, cannot be forced. Today's demand is a lot of pressure on teams to innovate because in a short time others are able to copy you, and so you have to come out with new things.
Absolutely.
How does it work? Every time you cannot tell them to listen to jazz, there will be a time jazz will not work. That original creativity will take time. Original creativity has to there now. And then biggest big thing you talk about is that to either innovate or to be creative, you need to know about vulnerability and also to be ready to fail. Nowadays, failure for many in terms of creativity is about one or two prompts going wrong. You learn the right prompts, and the AI will give it to you. How does the future of creativity and innovation look to you when there is not much time for either thinking, aligning yourself with nature, or to fail in the real sense?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one of the main questions that business folks and entrepreneurs have is, I don't have the time. And I believe people do have the time. And I'm not, there are various ways to approach this to comprehend the time that we have. So if everybody has at least 5 minutes a day, and 5 minutes a day adds up after a month and 6 months and a year. And if you're simply spending 5 minutes a day doing one exercise regarding accessing more awareness of your creativity, then it's going to assist you. And my belief is that if you're carving out that 5 minutes, wherever it might be at the very beginning of the day, it could be at lunch, whenever lunch might happen, or sometime in the evening. But if you carve out that 5 minutes, it's going to be enticing to add maybe another 5 minutes. And then a few months later, you might find yourself saying, you know what, I need a half an hour a day to connect with this process. And it might be 3 exercises in a half an hour. But that half hour, even the 5 minutes adds up over time. But the half hour certainly adds up over time into hours, and then the accumulation of the equivalent of days after not too long, like 3 months, you're putting in a day's worth of creative work. So I believe that if your focus is seriously about innovation, and if we look at all and this also, this connects to scale. So many entrepreneurs want to innovate at the top of the top of the top, and that's good to strive toward. And I personally, I'm always striving toward those artists who I have looked up to and I have learned a tremendous amount from over my lifetime. Those are who I'm striving toward. And I'm also striving toward essentially an ideal of what great art can be. And this is what entrepreneurs are trying to do. They're striving toward that next big idea. And that's good, but we have to, again, keep it in scale. You may reach that, but in order to reach that, as other great entrepreneurs have done, or great inventors, or great scientists, or great artists, that happens as you're working, as you're connecting to your domain. So I don't spend 90% of my time out in nature, listening to jazz, going to museums, going to dance performances, going to poetry slams, or reading books. If I did that, then I wouldn't have any time to paint. So we keep that in scale, but it's necessary to have these qualities. One example is having a space within your office or your workspace that is, for a better term, a shrine, so to speak, to creativity. Put a couple photographs of people who you think of and you relate to as, wow, they had incredible ideas. And specifically in whatever if they're an engineer, if they're a computer scientist, if they're whatever they might be, have a photo of them to remind you, oh yeah, he or she did this and they nailed it. And have a few other items in this little area that is kind of a sacred space that reminds you of those people were creative and this is what they created. So it will spark some inspiration. So it's just time is super important, but if you want to be innovative, you must make space for it.
Right, Michael. My last question to you is, Patrick, is that in terms of creativity and innovation, there is a purpose. When an artist creates something, he or she does not think about that, I will make the best art of the world. They just do what their heart says, and then they go and create. A lot of times when you are looking at in terms of innovation, you have a purpose. Many a time the purpose is that that this should give me a lot of investor interest. This should be able to scale the product or the service that I'm taking. And the whole idea, sometimes you get focused on making it the next unicorn, or making it a very lucrative firm that you are creating, so that it can get acquired by someone else immediately or as soon as possible. And then you can get all that money and go off, and live in Hawaii or wherever you want to and stay relaxed. How do you calibrate this thought process, and how can entrepreneurs look at the thought process in terms of creativity and innovation? Because an artist will look at creativity in a totally different way, and an entrepreneur is looking in a very different way. There is more of profit. There it is much more about happiness and peace.
Great question. I think that it might be interesting for an entrepreneur to, as an exercise, to carve out, again, this is carving out some time, but this is inside their domain. So to carve out time to essentially pretend that they are using their entrepreneurship. Let's say that they're innovating a new widget, whatever that widget might be. But what would it be like for them to practice or pretend that they are making that widget, sometimes as artists do, like you described, that they're making it because they have to make it, because they have an inner joy and a great personal satisfaction, and it just bubbles up and flows out of them, the creative process of making a painting or making a drawing. What would it be like for the entrepreneur to pretend that their project is exactly the same, that they're producing this just because they have to, because there's this quality within them that wants to make something that is unique and special, which is exactly what a painter or an artist does, a choreographer, a composer, a poet. We have this feeling inside us and we want to express it. My challenge in a way is for entrepreneurs to set aside all of the ideas of profit, of eventually selling your business and retiring to Hawaii. Just put that aside and pretend all I'm doing this is to express my inner awareness of creating a new widget. And I think, and I'm just coming up with this from your question. So I'm sensing that this will actually unloosen their awareness. It will, in a way, take off a kind of straitjacket, because that straitjacket does affect artists also. As, oh, I want to make money from this painting or this series of paintings, and then I can do this, and then I can do that, which is all, natural and part of the human process. But we also spend a lot of time just focused on the piece and for the expression of it, art for art's sake. Entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs' sake. What would it be like for them to just practice this as an exercise? Every once in a while, once a week, maybe a couple times a week, just pretend for a little bit of the day, I'm doing this because I have to. Because I think some of them do feel that. Some of them do feel, they feel like, oh, there's something. What was it like for, as an example, Steve Jobs to start to conceive of a telephone that was more than a telephone, that was essentially just a little tiny computer that can do all of these other items that we never thought to do while we had a phone. So he, I believe, that part of him wanted to achieve something that was unique and completely at that top level of innovation and the next biggest thing. Those are examples and a practice to not get too attached to selling the business eventually, or going or joining forces with another giant corporation that will assure that you can buy your yacht. So we know that yachts don't bring you happiness. So I think it would be good for entrepreneurs to just take a little time every once in a while to say, wow, what if I'm doing this just for the joy of making a new widget or inventing a new software or whatever the innovation is.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you, Patrick, on this. There is, as I said, there is much to learn, and this is just one episode. So more people will have to come to you. So what is the best way for them to connect with you, learn with you, and collaborate with you?
Sure. I can be found at patrickwilliamsstaycreative.com. That's my business website. But I also have two art websites. One is patrickwilliams.com, and the other is celebrationflowerpaintings.com. And PMW Creativity is my Instagram, and I have another, that's drawings, which is a exercise that I do with folks, and an example of the exercise. And PMW_camera is my photography Instagram site. And Patrick at patrickwilliams.com. Email me, and I'd be glad to have a conversation with how I could help you find your creativity.
Absolutely. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.